Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us this afternoon on such short notice. I'm here to provide an update on an active and ongoing investigation. Before I share that update, it's important to know that I'm limited in the information I can share and the questions I can answer because this is an investigation is still ongoing. Upon receiving the reports from the claimant regarding Mel Tucker, MSU's Office of Civil Rights immediately commenced a review of subsequent investigation per university protocol using an outside third-party investigator. I was aware of the report in late December. The external investigator concluded their review and submitted their investigative report on July 25th with a recommendation for a formal hearing, which will occur the week of October 5th. The university's objective has been and remains focused on conducting a fair, thorough, and unbiased investigation and allowing the processes to play out. This includes protecting confidentiality of the claimant and putting in place interim measures. The university's formal conclusion of the investigation will occur once the hearing and final decision processes are complete. I want to emphasize again, this investigation is not complete. Interim measures are something that are constantly evaluated throughout the process based on developments that may have a potential impact on the ongoing investigation. As there have been new developments before the hearing and with the best interests of everyone, including student athletes and the university community in mind, I have suspended Mel Tucker without pay as an additional interim measure. While the investigation continues, I made this decision with the support of university leadership. I'd now like to welcome Interim President Teresa Woodruff to the podium for a few brief comments.
Thank you, Alan. I want to reinforce that these matters are unique and complex, and our investigations are designed to be comprehensive and fair. Our guiding principles are equity in process and confidentiality for all involved in order to protect the integrity of the investigation. I want to put a fine point on what A.D. Haller shared just a moment ago. In the MSU of today, when any report comes into the university, it is appropriately and rigorously reviewed. In the MSU of today, our investigative processes are fair and thorough. In the MSU of today, in all cases, we continually review interim measures to ensure appropriate actions are taken. So this morning's news might sound like the MSU of old. It was not. It is not because an independent, unbiased investigation is and continues to be conducted. That investigative process is not complete and had not been referred to A.D. Haller or the university. That process will not be complete until there is a hearing and a final decision. It is not the MSU of old because we maintain the confidence of the claimant and the respondent while respecting and valuing the claimant's and respondent's right to share their story. It is not because of the further action we take today. The action A.D. Haller took comes with the full weight of my support. As he shared, these new developments before the formal hearing can impact the case and the community. This step to place Mel Tucker on an unpaid leave is equally necessary and appropriate for today's circumstances. These actions are not taken lightly, and I know A.D. Haller is making them in support of the interests of the individuals impacted. Before I conclude, I want to reinforce that this indeed is an ongoing investigation. I appreciate the commitment of the leadership and staff within the Office for Civil Rights for their important, thorough, and unbiased work today and every day. I also want to thank the Board of Trustees, Faculty Senate Chair, and student leaders for their engagement with me today. It is not lost on me the significance of this moment or its impact on those involved in the case, our university community, and the extended Spartan family. The MSU of today is creating a culture that is welcoming, supportive, and caring. The bravery and work of our collective community defines our institution and its people, not the action of any single individual. If you have heard or experienced or know of behavior that does not seem appropriate, please know that you have the support and resources here at MSU, including our Center for Survivors, which is a confidential resource, or our Office for Civil Rights. Additionally, for those among our community for whom this information is difficult, MSU's counseling and psychiatric services is also available to help. To members of the media, I hope you note these important and critical resources for our community in your stories. Now I'd like to welcome A.D. Haller back to the podium. Thank you.
Thank you, President. Today I met with our student athletes and coaches to provide an update on the leadership of the program. Beginning immediately, Harlon Barnett will serve as acting head coach, while Mark Dantonio will become an associate head coach. A former Spartan student athlete with 21 years of coaching experience, including 15 on the Spartan sideline, Coach Barnett has an incredible connection to our university and takes incredible pride in being a Spartan. He has established relationships with student athletes and is focused on the well-being first and foremost. Coach Dantonio not only is an exceptional football coach and will be a tremendous resource for Harlon. Both men have a deep love and care for Michigan State football, Spartan athletics, the university, and the East Lansing community. Coach Barnett will be available later this week for questions.
At this time, we've got time for 2 or 3 questions. We do have a mic. I know we won't be able to get to everybody, but Ben's got the mic here. Start in front with Chris.
With the decision to promote Harlon and bring back Mark Dantonio, from a football standpoint, how did that come about, and what was Mark's response when you contacted him, and how that worked?
Yeah, thanks, Chris. You know, Chris, I think all the time, and I'm always processing information, processing situations. I can't tell you that I thought of this yesterday, today, or even a couple of days ago. I'm always thinking. So these are contingency things that I think about with all of our programs in a lot of different situations. So it's been an ongoing process for me, Chris. I called Coach Dantonio this morning, and his response was, "Alan, whatever you need, I'm here to help." So he was excited to be back, and Coach D will probably be back at some point tomorrow. If not tomorrow, definitely on Tuesday. We're still trying to figure out his role, but he definitely will wear a headset either on the sidelines and up in the booth, and he'll offer his knowledge of his coaching career. So I think he'll be a tremendous asset for our student athletes and our staff, and the student athletes were fired up when I mentioned that to them. Thanks, Chris.
Hey, Alan, I was wondering, with the timeline you laid out for the process and the investigation, I was wondering what changed to make you take action now, given what you knew before?
Yeah, Matt, we're always evaluating. Interim measures were in place, and those interim measures have been updated. Initially, there were no contact with the complainant, and then also increased oversight from me of the program, but then also the coach. So it's an ongoing process, and we update those interim measures as we receive information.
Last question here from Graham.
Alan, was there any consideration once the investigation was complete in July, and you sort of had the information you do now, of doing what you're doing now before the season, before it sort of interrupted what's going on with the student athletes and everything?
Yeah, for me, Graham, it was, working and waiting on the university as it relates to their investigative process and making sure that they were allowed to complete their investigation. And so although the investigation was complete on the 25th, there's still ongoing processes that still need to be played out.
So thank you. That's all the time that we have for today. Appreciate you guys for joining us on short notice.
Dave Revson and Howard Griffith with you in Chicago. You just heard coverage of Michigan State's news conference announcing an unpaid leave for head coach Mel Tucker. Harlon Barnett and Mark Dantonio slated to take over with Harlon Barnett as the acting head coach. Former coach Mark Dantonio will serve in an associate role. Howard, what stood out about what you heard there?
I'm still shocked at just, the news of today, right? That this has gone on. They tried to move quickly. They seemed like they wanted to move quickly. There was no real new information that was out there outside of the reports that we've been reading this morning. But they talked about it as constant evaluation of the process, and they felt it was time to take the next step.
Right, and I think Alan Haller didn't necessarily really answer the question,
Right.
but it's pretty obvious there were some external factors at work. The story became public.
Yes.
And that very much changes the complexion of it. Now, I think there are going to be a lot of questions asked here in the subsequent weeks as to whether or not they should have waited for the story to become public, but Michigan State's explanation was that, hey, we're trying to be fair to both sides, and we have set a hearing, and that's our typical protocol, and the hearing is set for early October, and we were going to wait for the hearing to play out. But of course, as the story comes out, an explosive story in USA Today, it seems like that had to be what changed the timeline.
Yeah, that's what it seems like without a doubt, but I think you also have to put the student athletes first, right? So now the student athletes can deal with this for the early part of the week, and then they can move on and start to take care of their business. And I'm in no way making light of the situation, but the student athletes also are going to be the ones that are going to be asked all these questions about what's going on with your head coach if he is still in the position as being the head coach. So I think the natural thing is to remove him at this particular point and then allow the process to continue to move forward.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. As soon as this story breaks, it becomes an untenable situation because of everything that's going to be going on externally. And so from that point of view, it does make sense. Again, there are going to be questions as to whether or not it should have happened earlier, but I think you hit a fork in the road today where clearly you couldn't move forward with him as the head coach, and so now unpaid leave for Mel Tucker, and we'll see how this process plays out. You mentioned the student athletes, and look, there's still football games here. They're playing Washington. They got a huge game coming up this week, a big measuring stick game for their program. How do you move forward as a player? And we saw this is the second time we've seen this now in the Big Ten in the span of essentially 2 months. The Pat Fitzgerald story was almost exactly 2 months ago at Northwestern. The difference here is you're in the middle of the season. How do you move forward in a situation like this?
Well, I think if we think about just the football side of it, nothing's really going to change from an offense and defensive special teams perspective. The coaches and the coordinators are still in place outside of your head coach. Now, Harlon will have to step into that position. Coach Barnett will have to be the leader of this organization. So I think he has to I'm sure he's already talked to the team and kind of told him what they should expect from him as the coach and how they're going to move forward. But make no mistake about it. This is a distraction leading up to this week, without a doubt, but something that they are going to have to deal with. And one thing about young people, we talk about the resolve of the young people. They're really able to bounce back. So yes, it affects them emotionally, but I think once they can get back into the classroom, back onto the field, they'll feel much better about the situation, understanding that there's still a lot of things that are in front of this football team. This is a good football team. They just have to fight through this huge situation that's in front of them right now.
You and I have spent a lot of time around Michigan State through the years. They are one of the programs that probably has been the most welcoming, frankly, to us. I mean, I feel like we've had incredible access. We've gotten to know Mark Dantonio very well through the years when he was there. You know Harlon Barnett. That's a long preamble to say you know him. Give people who don't know Harlon Barnett a sense of what Michigan State is getting and what the leadership style will be for him.
Well, here's the interesting thing. For Michigan State fans and former athletes, they know exactly who he is because he bleeds green and white. This is a place where he has played, spent a lot of time coaching. Now he gets an opportunity to lead this program so he can put his fingerprints on it. They talk about the Spartan dogs, right? The secondary and those guys flying around. And they're getting a person that's going to be committed to the university first and to the young people. And I think that's an important part of this process as they start to work through this as players and coaches. That somebody now is going to be leading the program that believes in the program and understands what it takes to have success. And make no mistake about it, having Coach Dantonio there will be a huge boost for him, as he's going to need that guidance too, and to be able to have him around the program, helping coach the program, able to wear a headset, because he just needs to get back into it for himself. And I think they'll be fine. But this is a tough situation, no question about it.
No doubt. Again, the story today, Mel Tucker has been suspended without pay indefinitely for Michigan State pending an early October hearing into sexual harassment allegations surrounding Tucker and someone from outside of the Michigan State program and community.